Yes.
That's exactly
So we are going to be talking about Arami, Oved,
What other book?
Feel free to stop me if you have questions. I'm just going to get started.
Elisheva, I'm just going to ask everyone if they can just mute their computer, aside from Elisheva. So if everyone can mute themselves, because we're hearing a clicking sound, which is kind of odd. So if people could, if they can make sure to mute themselves, please.
All right. So I'm going to get started. Arami, Oved is usually a text that we associate with Pesach. It is a major text in the Haggadah. It's one that we kind of recite, and then we go through pasuk by pasuk and kind of explain. But actually, it is really a Shavuot text, because it is a text really that, if you look at the psukim, when was this text said? Source 1, V'lakachta mereshit kol pri ha'adama asher tevi me'artzecha, asher Hashem Elokecha noten lecha, v'samta b'tenet, v'halachta el ha'makom asher yivchar Hashem Elokecha, and so on. So when was Arami Oved said? It was said when we bring the Bikurim to the Beis Hamikdash. All right. Source number 2, when can we bring the Bikurim to the Beis Hamikdash? Me'atzeret ve'ad hachag mevi v'koreh. We're not going to look at the rest of the text, but when do you bring the Bikurim? From Atzeret, which here means Shavuot, ad hachag, which means Sukkot. So the Bikurim are brought from Shavuot to Sukkot, and during that time when you bring your Bikurim, you say Arami Oved, therefore making it pretty good Shavuot text. So just to go through, what is Arami Oved, right? Arami Oved is a text dictating Arami Oved, my father was an Aramean, and we went down to Mitzrayim, and we lived there. We were slaves. They made us do hard work. We shouted out to God. God heard our words. God took us out of Mitzrayim with great wonders, and God brought us here to Eretz Avat Chalav U'Dvash. And now I am bringing my Bikurim in Eretz Yisrael to you. That's the overview, basically. Okay. Who says Arami Oved? So this is in source number 3, but basically, I'm just going to paraphrase outside the text. Who says Arami Oved? All men who are bringing Bikurim say Arami Oved, except for a few specific groups that can't. But every single person needs to come and say the text. And it says in the Mishnah that there were some people who could say the text by themselves, and some people who could only recite after the Kohen, and it became tradition that everyone would recite after the Kohen, so that no one would be embarrassed and not say Arami Oved because of it. Every single person needs to say Arami Oved. Okay. The next question that the first question I'd like to tackle is, why do we say Arami Oved? Why, when we bring Bikurim, do we say this kind of condensed historical text? So the Ibn Ezra in source 4 says, Yigadati, Hatam Kadei Shmu'u Aktanim. So why do we say this? So that the children will hear. It's a decent answer. Why do we say this history? Because we want the children to know our history. Sorry, I hope I'm not going too fast. In his book Zachor, Yosef Chaim Yerushalmi talks about kind of history and, well, yes, talks about history, and says that Arami Oved Avi is what he calls a capsule history. It's the essentials are all here in a ritualized formula. Okay, so first we have this capsule history where everything's here. Why is it important to have this history? This is source number 6 from the same book. Not only is Israel under no obligation whatever to remember the entire past, but its principle of selection is unique unto itself. It is above all God's acts of intervention in history and man's responses to them, be they positive or negative, that must be recalled. So what's the point of history? What's the point of history? The point of history is to illustrate the acts of God and God's interventions in history and for the glorification of God. So why recite a piece of history here? Why recite this capsule history? Kind of for the glorification of God when we bring the Bikurim. Given both of these reasons, which I think are very good explanations for why we would say Arami Oved Avi, a question that bothered me was then why isn't Matan Torah part of Arami Oved Avi? You would think that for both of these answers, you would want our children to know about Matan Torah, and when we talk about glorification of God and seeing God's hand in history, that this is a major theme, right? So why do we have this history? Why are we reciting this history that does not include Matan Torah, that does not include Ma'amad Har Sinai, that just goes, we were slaves in Egypt, you brought us out, now we're here in Israel. So I'd like to suggest an answer. I'd like to argue that Arami Oved Avi is strictly about the individual. If you look back at source 1, both the first and last pasukim of Arami Oved Avi are in first person. Arami Oved Avi, my father. And in the last pasuk, V'atah hinei heveiti et reshit pri adama. And now I am bringing my fruits. It is, yes, there's a communal in there, but we both start and end with the individual here. Yetziat Mitzrayim, I think, can be considered a history of the individual in some ways. Every individual made the choice to follow God out of Mitzrayim. And when we talk about Arami Oved Avi, each person is thanking God, thank you for giving me this fruit and making this land harvest for me, right? We're not talking about thank you for this land for everyone, it's strictly for me. We see even in the Haggadah, in source number 9, Ve'ilu lo hotzi HaKadosh Baruch Hu הרי אנו ובנינו ובני בנינו משועבדים היינו במצרים, ואפילו כולנו חכמים, כולנו נבונים, כולנו זקנים, כולנו יודעים את התורה, מצווה עלינו לספר. Every single person as an individual has the obligation to tell the story of Mitzrayim, right? And I'd like to contrast that with Ma'amad Har Sinai. Har Sinai is, I think, the quintessential communal instance of community in the Torah. Probably the most famous Rashi, arguably, in the Torah is Vayachan Sham Yisrael. This is source 7. K'ish echad belev echad. That when Bnei Israel were camped at the bottom of Har Sinai, they were like one man with one heart. And further, a little bit later in the parak, when they are answering God, "Vayanu kol ha'am yachdav, vayamru kol asher diber Hashem na'aseh." The nation says as a whole. Shavuot, not Shavuot. Matan Torah is all about the communal. And I guess I'd like to argue it doesn't fit with Arami Oved Abi, because Arami Oved Abi is about the individual, as I've tried to illustrate. And Matan Torah is really the antithesis of that. And while there is while there's a historical and spiritual place for Matan Torah, of course, it's not here. This is about the individual's journey recounted by the individual as they are reaching the Beit HaMikdash with their bikurim. I hope that was somewhat clear. I know I went very fast.
Elisheva. Sorry, is that Elisheva? Do you have time for one or two questions?
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to share with
No questions is also fine.
Well, you're saying basically, I don't know why I'm getting such a echo, but what you're saying basically is that Matan Torah, right, and Arami Oved Avi are basically like two ways in which we're born out of this people, but then Shavuot has these two facets to them, and they're both being. Is that what you're saying? Are you seeing it in that way? Is that how you?
So I think Shavuot is more complicated,
Mm-hmm.
Especially because Matan Torah was added centuries later to Shavuot. Like really, when you talk about the essence of Shavuot, the essence is the Bikurim. And so I guess according to this, the essence of Shavuot really is the individual, not the group. Which is why it's kind of fascinating that it was added on later as this kind of real communal holiday of Matan Torah, because it doesn't really fit, at least according to what I'm saying. But it creates this nice contradiction of holding both at the same time. When you have both kind of this harvest festival and this kind of celebration of Matan Torah at the same time.
Do you see it with Pesach as well? Like Shavuot is the kind of the end, the atzeret of Pesach. So do you see it in that way as well, that Pesach has that dual component to it, or that individual?
Yeah, I mean, as I probably should have elaborated on before, I think what's interesting is when you reach Har Sinai, it's really when a brit is made between this generation and God. It's basically since Abraham, it's where there is a brit between God and the people. And pre-Matan Torah, you're really working with individuals who are choosing to come together as a nation and choosing to follow God. So yes, they're together, but it's not that there's more free will, but I guess it's a more conscious decision each time they make a decision. Whereas we reach Matan Torah, and it's this giant conscious decision to accept God and to make this brit with God. But once that's done, kind of the decision in many ways is made for them already.
Mm-hmm.
They've made this covenant. They're done now. Which it brings them it makes them servants of God in a different way, and it makes them a community in a different way, because they've accepted this upon them. And when they leave Mitzrayim, they're doing so in a group. They're doing so as free choosing individuals.
Mm. So it's actually complements the nation like from like as an Atzeret to Pesach, what you're saying is more complementary almost than the Matan Torah experience, because it's really like there's still some kind of, I don't know, autonomy, but they're making these decisions. There were people who didn't leave Egypt, right? They made that decision, and here you're saying Arami Oved Avi is still, you have that individual component there. So it actually, that's fantastic. Wow. Does anyone have any other questions that they'd like to ask? You can chat it to me, or you can unmute yourself and ask Elisheva. You know, I'm trying to see. It's hard. We have a bunch of people on here. If there's anything to ask, I'm trying to see. Well, I want to say that this was fantastic. Thank you so much, Elisheva, for this. Really, a lot of people also don't know the connection of Arami Oved Avi to Shavuos, which of course it is. It happens on Chag Bikurim, and so thank you for bringing. A lot of times people think it's Pesach, but it's really not. This is the time. So thank you for highlighting that for us. That's really, really important. It was beautiful. Really, really, it gave so much to us on Erev Shavuos. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to just remind everyone that tomorrow night we're going to have a special Dvar Torah Slam, where you'll have a bunch of like around 5-minute Divrei Torah that are going to be offered from 8:30 to about 9:30. People are welcome to join us for that. And then on Wednesday night, we have Nachman Mazarek, Paul Franks, and Yonatan Neimanlich giving shirim as well. I guess they would kind of go into the graveyard slot. What is that? Graveyard shift, is that what we used to call it? And the people, Elisheva, you and like Avi used to take the last one. So this is much earlier than what you usually have on Shavuos night. So that's great. But we really appreciate everyone for joining us. Please know that these sessions have been recorded if people want to listen again. Also, there will be makarot, there will be source material. Elisheva shared her material, Professor Jacobowitz shared her material, James shared his material. So hopefully, if you want to review it, that will be some amazing material that you have over Yantif. I hope everyone has a wonderful first day of their Shoshet Yemei Hagbala. And I want to thank Elisheva May, James Licht, and Professor Tammy Jacobowitz for your amazing, amazing Torah this evening. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Elisheva.